Paul did a great little event that sometimes I love doing as well. Not that I learned it from him, but I think it's a great little technique. And of course, Paul is a Pharisee. Pharisees believe in the resurrection and they believe in angels. Right? Sadducees do not believe in the resurrection. And so they've got Paul now, and they both want to present Paul, to have him arrested and accused. And he knows that, so what he brings up is the fact that he's a Pharisee and he believes in the resurrection. And he causes a fight between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. So while they're all fighting, he goes. He gets out of the pit. If you've ever done that where you have some people who disagree, but if you can throw a bomb in the middle of that, then they all go after they all go after each other, and then you're like, okay, so I guess I'm free now, this idea. And that's what Paul does. And of course the Pharisees, once he claims himself as a Pharisee, then the Pharisees are on his side. And then, but that's a little technique of someone who sometimes, especially between liberals and conservatives, you can throw a little bomb right in the middle of them, and then they all go crazy, and then you're just like, okay, watch the fireworks go, So that can be a great technique to get out of having the focus on yourself. But that's not what I want to talk about, actually. But I still think it's cool that he does that in the Bible. Today is the feast day of Boniface, and he martyred in the 754. So really, the first millennium of the church. And he was the bishop of Germany when the church was pretty small. So they had bishop of that whole area, right? And his big thing is he tore down pagan altars. So that people believe in all kinds of gods, and that lent him a lot of success. But he was martyred while he was getting ready to confirm more converts in the faith. The pagan people had him and all of his companions killed, right? And I was thinking of that, reflecting on that. And as I take a look at the martyrs, I was thinking, some of us, we think it's so bad at this time. It's like, oh, look, your kids aren't going to mass. It doesn't matter. The world is secular. We have all these other religions of Wicca and Reiki going on, and there's all these atheists, and as if we have it so bad and where the world is going. And you got to realize that when you have a broad spectrum, and a history of this, these thousands of years, you realize it's always been this way. And some have had it a lot worse than we had. And sometimes I even think what's going on in the church, I'm like, can you imagine what it was like to live during the Reformation? Right, in Germany with Martin Luther and and then also too the whole Reformation in Switzerland with Zwingli and all of that. I mean, they were excommunicating and killing each other over these kinds of things in terms of beliefs, and it was very much more violent kind of society at that time, And I always wonder if while we're complaining about maybe our faith and all of that, if some of the martyrs must look down from heaven and say, really, you think you have it hard, right? I mean, you have heat in your house, you have air conditioning, you have a nice family, you got work and a job. Let me show you what hard is, Because step back 1,000 years and then see what real hard life is like when we all just needed to survive. It kind of puts a perspective into things, And you want to say, look at us. I'll show you what really hard it is to live the faith. In the midst of a very, pagan world, let's say. And I think sometimes we think it's bad, but we really don't have. I think if you think of what's really bad, is that we don't have the same kind of zeal that the early Christians had, that they had, because they were just willing to do anything, even give up their life, And today, we even say, actually in the 20th century, there were more martyrs in the 20th century for the Christian faith than any other time, especially through the issues around communism and the martyrs in the other places. And we think with all the martyrs, we in America have it pretty cushy, compared to what they did to live the faith. And maybe that's probably the problem. Is that we have it way too easy, that we take too much for granted. And then when we have a little thing like a hangnail of faith, so to speak, we're like, things are so bad. Like, we don't know really what bad is. And if we see the tradition, our faith as that long and as that grand, then we become to see that, we're part of bringing the church forward, and we pray, hopefully, to have the same kind of zeal someone like St. Boniface had, who went out and was going to proclaim the gospel, and even to the point of not only just my own discomfort, because somebody might think bad of me, might say bad words to me, or might write something really bad about me, but instead, someone who's like, yeah, they could take my life for all I care because my heart is set on heaven.